Some betrayals are planned in boardrooms, not bedrooms. Ngozi sat in the dimly lit office of Emeka Industries, her hands trembling as three men in expensive suits slid a thick envelope across the mahogany table. Inside was more money than she had seen in her entire life, enough to pay for her mother's cancer treatment, her brother's school fees, and maybe, just maybe, give her family a chance at survival. All she had to do was become a spy. All she had to do was destroy a man she had never met. Chike Okonkwo thinks he's untouchable, Mr. Emeka said, his voice cold as winter rain. He's about to launch a technology that will put us out of business. We need someone on the inside. Someone he would never suspect. Someone like you? Ngozi looked at the envelope, then at the hospital bills crumpled in her purse. Her mother had 3 months to live without treatment. What choice did she have? She thought of her mother's frail hands, her brother's bright eyes full of hope, and she made a decision that would haunt her forever. She took the money. Within a week, Ngozi found herself standing outside the massive gates of Chike's estate in Ikoyi, Lagos's most exclusive neighborhood. The mansion looked like something from a movie, all glass and steel and impossible dreams. She clutched her fake references, her heart pounding so loud she was sure the security guard could hear it. This was it. The beginning of her mission. The beginning of her lie. As the gates opened and she walked through, she had no idea she was walking into something far more dangerous than corporate espionage. She was walking toward a love that would tear her apart. Chike Okonkwo was not what Ngozi expected. She had imagined a cold, arrogant man who treated his staff like furniture. Instead, she found someone who remembered everyone's names, who asked about her first day with genuine concern, who worked 18-hour days not for greed, but for a vision he believed would change Africa. On her third day, she found him in the kitchen at midnight, making tea himself because he didn't want to wake the staff. "You're up late," he said with a tired smile. That smile did something to her chest she didn't understand. Her job was simple: clean his office, organize his files, and photograph every document she could find. The men at Emeka Industries wanted details about his new satellite technology, the project that would bring affordable internet to every village in Nigeria. Every night, Ngozi sent encrypted photos to her handlers. Every night, she felt a piece of her soul die. She watched Chike pour his heart into presentations, saw him reject profitable deals because they would hurt local communities, heard him take calls from his own sick mother with such tenderness it made her want to cry. But how do you betray someone who treats you like family? Ngozi started making mistakes. She would forget to photograph certain documents. She would send blurry images. She began to sabotage her own mission, and she knew it was dangerous. Mr. Emeka called her twice, his voice sharp with warning. "We're paying you for results, not friendship." The pressure mounted from both sides. Chike trusted her more each day, giving her access to his private study, his confidential files, his life. And with each act of trust, Ngozi's heart broke a little more. She was falling for the man she was supposed to destroy, and there was no way this story could end well. 3 months into her employment, everything changed. Chike's mother passed away, and Ngozi saw a side of him that shattered every wall she had built around her heart. He wept in the garden at midnight. This powerful man, who commanded boardrooms and built empires, reduced to a boy who had lost his hero. Without thinking, Ngozi brought him tea, sat beside him in silence, and when he finally spoke, he told her things he had never told anyone: his fears, his doubts, his loneliness at the top. "Everyone wants something from me," he whispered into the darkness. "My business partners want my money. My relatives want my influence. Even the women I date want the lifestyle. Sometimes I wonder if anyone would care about Chike the man, not Chike the billionaire." Ngozi's throat tightened with guilt so fierce she could barely breathe. She was the worst of them all. She was there precisely because of what he had, what he knew, what she could take from him. She wanted to confess everything right then, but the words stuck in her throat like broken glass. That night, Chike did something unexpected. He offered to pay for her mother's surgery. He had noticed the medical bills she tried to hide, the phone calls she took in hushed, desperate tones. "Family is everything," he said simply. Let me help yours. Ngozi went to her room and cried until she had no tears left. This man she was betraying had just saved her mother's life. The irony was devastating. She was supposed to destroy him, but instead, he was saving her. She knew then that she loved him completely, impossibly, destructively. And love, she was learning, was the cruelest mission of all. The launch date for Chike's satellite project was set, 3 months away. Mr. Emeka's demands became more aggressive, more specific. They wanted the encryption codes for his technology, the investor list, the launch, coordinates, everything needed to sabotage the project completely. This is the big one, Emeka told her during a secret meeting in a parking garage. After this, you're done. You get your final payment, and you disappear. Ngozi stared at the list of demands, her stomach churning with nausea. But love makes cowards brave, and brave people foolish. Instead of stealing what they wanted, Ngozi began feeding them false information. She doctored documents, changed crucial numbers, sent them on wild chases that led nowhere. It was incredibly dangerous. If Emeka discovered her deception, her family would pay the price. If Chike discovered her betrayal, her heart would never recover. She was playing both sides now, protecting the man she loved while trying to keep her family safe from the criminals who owned her. Could she really save everyone? Or was she just delaying the inevitable disaster? Chike grew closer to her every day. He started taking her to business dinners, trusting her with sensitive meetings, asking her opinion on decisions worth millions. "You have good instincts," he told her one evening, his eyes holding hers a moment too long. The air between them crackled with something unspoken. When his hand brushed hers as they reviewed documents, neither of them pulled away. They were crossing lines that should never be crossed. And Ngozi knew that when the truth came out, and it always came out, the fall would destroy them both. But she was already falling, and she couldn't stop herself anymore. The first kiss happened during a thunderstorm. They were alone in Chike's study, working late on presentation materials, when the power went out. In the darkness, lit only by candlelight and lightning flashes, Chike confessed something that stopped her heart. "I'm falling for you, Ngozi. I know I shouldn't. I know the power dynamics make this complicated. But I can't pretend anymore." Before she could think, before guilt could stop her, she kissed him with all the desperation of a woman living on borrowed time. Their relationship bloomed in secret, stolen moments in his study, quiet dinners after the staff had gone home, conversations that lasted until dawn. Chike was different with her, vulnerable, real. He shared his dreams of transforming Africa's digital landscape, his guilt about his wealth, while others suffered, his fear that he would die alone because no one truly knew him. "You see me?" he whispered one night, holding her face in his hands. "Not my money, not my status, just me." Each word was a knife in Ngozi's chest, because everything was built on a lie. The men at Emeka Industries grew suspicious of her stalling. They sent someone to watch her, a new gardener who appeared at the estate, his eyes always following her movements. The threat was clear: deliver what they wanted, or face consequences. Ngozi lived in constant terror, jumping at shadows, checking her phone obsessively. She wanted to run away with Chike, to confess everything and beg his forgiveness, to start over somewhere new. But she knew the world didn't work that way. Fairy tales didn't come true for girls who made deals with devils. Still, when Chike held her at night and whispered that he loved her, she let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe love could conquer even the worst betrayals. Everything unraveled on a Tuesday morning. Chike's head of security, James, pulled Ngozi aside with an expression that made her blood run cold. "Someone's been accessing the CEO's files without authorization," he said carefully. "The digital forensics team is investigating. Just wanted to give you a heads up." It wasn't a warning, it was a countdown. They knew, or they were close to knowing. Ngozi felt the walls of her beautiful lie crumbling around her. That same day, Mr. Emeka's threats escalated to violence. He sent her a photo of her brother leaving school, a clear message that her family was no longer protected by distance. "You've been holding out on us," his text read. "Final warning. We want those codes by Friday, or the boy pays for your loyalty to the billionaire." Ngozi stared at the photo, her entire body shaking. She had tried to protect everyone and was about to lose everything. There was no path forward that didn't end in destruction. What do you do when every choice is wrong? Ngozi made a desperate decision. She would tell Chike everything, confess her sins, beg his forgiveness, and ask for his help protecting her family from Emeka's threats. Maybe, just maybe, if she came clean herself before he discovered the truth, there was a chance he could forgive her. That night, she waited for him in his study, practicing the words she would say, trying to find a way to explain the inexplicable. But before she could speak, Chike entered the room with James, and the expression on his face told her everything. He already knew. Someone had told him first, and the way he looked at her now, like she was a stranger, like she was nothing, that look would haunt her for the rest of her life. How long? Chike's voice was eerily calm, the kind of calm that comes before a storm destroys everything in its path. How long have you been working for Emeka? Ngozi couldn't speak. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. James placed a folder on the desk between them, evidence of her encrypted messages, screenshots of her photographing documents, bank records showing the payments to her account. Everything was there. Every lie, every betrayal. There was no defense possible. "I can explain," she finally whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Chike, let me explain." But he held up a hand, stopping her. "Did you ever care about me at all? Or was that part of the act too?" The pain in his voice was worse than any anger could have been. "When you kissed me, when you told me you loved me, when you let me believe that someone finally saw me for who I really am, was any of it real?" Ngozi reached for him, but he stepped back, like her touch would burn him. "It was real," she cried. "Everything between us was real. Yes, I was sent here to spy on you. Yes, I took their money because my mother was dying. But I fell in love with you, Chike. I stopped giving them real information months ago. I've been protecting you, lying to them, putting my family at risk because I couldn't bear to hurt you." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, showing him the threatening messages from Emeka, the photos of her brother, the demands she had been resisting. "They're going to kill my family because I chose you over them, because I love you more than I love my own life." Chike stared at the evidence of her impossible position, and for a moment, just a moment, something softened in his eyes. But then the walls came back up. "You should have told me from the beginning," he said quietly. "You should have trusted me. Instead, you lied every single day. You made me believe in something that never existed." He walked to the window, his back to her, shoulders rigid with pain. "I would have helped you. I would have protected your family. But you didn't give me that choice. You decided I was the enemy, just like everyone else." "I was wrong," Ngozi whispered. "I was so wrong, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But sorry wasn't enough. James escorted her out of the study, and Ngozi knew she was losing everything: the man she loved, the job that had become her whole world, any chance at redemption. As she packed her belongings in her small room, her phone rang. It was Emeka, and his voice dripped with false sympathy. "I heard you had a difficult evening. Since you failed to deliver what we needed, we'll be taking alternative measures. Your brother's safety is no longer guaranteed." Would Chike leave her family to face the consequences of her betrayal alone? Before Ngozi could respond, her phone was plucked from her hands. Chike stood in her doorway, his expression unreadable. He put the phone on speaker. "This is Chike Okonkwo," he said into the phone, his voice sharp as a blade. "If you or anyone associated with your organization goes near Ngozi's family, I will use every resource I have to destroy you. I have recordings of your extortion attempts, evidence of your corporate espionage, and enough lawyers to bury you in litigation for the rest of your miserable life. The only question is whether you want to walk away quietly or be dragged through every court in Nigeria." The silence on the other end was long. Then the call ended. Chike tossed the phone back to Ngozi without looking at her. "Your family is safe," he said coldly, "but you need to leave my house Tonight. 6 months passed, like 6 lifetimes. Ngozi returned to her family, who never knew the full truth of what she had done. Her mother recovered from surgery, her brother thrived in school, and she found work at a small company far from Lagos, far from the memories that tormented her. Every day, she lived with the weight of her choices. Every night, she dreamed of Chike's face when he looked at her like she was a stranger. Love, she learned, doesn't die just because it should. It lingers like a ghost, haunting every quiet moment. Then one evening, watching the news, she saw Chike's satellite launch the project she had almost helped destroy. It was a massive success, bringing internet access to millions across rural Africa. Tears streamed down her face as she watched him speak at the press conference. Looking tired but triumphant, he had done it. Despite her betrayal, despite everything, he had achieved his dream, and she had played no part in his victory, except as a cautionary tale about trust. Could redemption ever be earned, or were some mistakes permanent? The answer came in an unexpected form. James, Chike's head of security, appeared at her door one Saturday morning. "He wants to see you," James said simply. "He's been following the Emeka case. They were arrested for corporate espionage 3 weeks ago. Your testimony helped seal the case." Ngozi's heart hammered against her ribs. "Why does he want to see me?" James's expression softened slightly. "That's between you and him, but I'll tell you this, I've known Chike for 10 years. I've never seen him as destroyed as he was after you left, and I've never seen him work as hard to forgive someone. Whether that forgiveness is enough, whether you two can find your way back to each other, that's for you both to figure out. But at least, hear him out. Some love stories don't end where we think they do." Ngozi stood outside Chike's estate once more, her hands trembling just like the first day she had arrived, except everything was different now. She wasn't coming as a spy or a maid. She was coming as herself, broken, honest, and terrified. The gates opened, and this time, Chike himself stood at the entrance. He looked older, more weathered, but his eyes still held that intensity that had captured her heart. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. They walked through his gardens in silence, the weight of 6 months of separation heavy between them. "I've had time to think," Chike finally said, stopping by the fountain where they had first kissed. "About trust, about forgiveness, about what love really means. You betrayed me, Ngozi. That's the truth, and we can't erase it. But I also understand now the impossible position you were in. You made terrible choices, but you made them for your family. And when you fell in love with me, you risked everything to protect me. You stopped being their spy and became something more dangerous. You became someone who chose love over survival." He turned to face her, and she saw tears in his eyes. "I've been angry for 6 months, but I've also been incomplete. You were right about one thing. You saw me, really saw me, in ways no one else ever has. That wasn't a lie. I felt it every day." "I love you," Ngozi whispered, tears falling freely now. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I broke something precious between us. But I love you with everything I am, and I will spend the rest of my life proving that my love was the only true thing in all those lies." Chike reached out slowly, carefully, and wiped a tear from her cheek. "Love isn't about deserving," he said softly. "It's about choosing each other, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I'm not saying this will be easy. Trust, once broken, takes years to rebuild, but I want to try. If you're willing to do the work, to be completely honest, from this moment forward, to build something real from the ashes of what we lost, then I'm willing to try too." As the sunset painted the sky in shades of redemption, Ngozi and Chike stood together, 2 broken people choosing to heal together. Love hadn't conquered all, it had survived all, which was even more powerful. Now it's your turn. What would you have done in Ngozi's position? Would you have confessed earlier, or would you have chosen your family's survival over honesty? Drop your answer in the comments below.